the best transaction capabilities. It's safe. It's sort of able to cater to millions of customers, but you don't have the engage part of the product handled, right? You will still not be successful because your customer engagement will not be fulfilled to the extent that some of your competitors might be doing. So even though their buy experience would be great, you may not be able to cover the engage, discover, or explore phases. So each of these phases has to be supported by your product. And you need to be aware of this, and you need to plan and strategize for that. The third thing is, like I said before, all of these areas of your product need to integrate. And this is where the technology and the platform strategies need to be thought out carefully, because both data and services have to be able to talk to each other across these platforms. And if you cannot integrate, you cannot really get maximum benefit out of this whole engagement lifecycle, and you cannot really push each of these phases to drive your other phases. For example, if you are getting great engagement data, but you're not able to channelize that into your discover and explore phases, then it doesn't really help you much. You have great feedback from the customers. Most people are rating you high. Most people kind of want to do business with you and would like to introduce you to their friends, but you are not really integrated to Facebook, so they can't really recommend you on Facebook, for example, right? So that kind of destroys the whole power of all the engagement data that you're collecting. So that brings me to my final slide about the technology and architecture challenges, and sort of after that I'll have a few closing comments on experiences and challenges around this, right? So I think it's very clear, so this won't need too much of my time. We've already seen that each of these areas need different kind of capabilities, right? So I'm just kind of putting some technology terms here instead of the capabilities, general capabilities that we have talked about. And again, I'm keeping it very generic because we don't want to talk about specific technology vendors or platforms here. You can choose any of the areas or any of the vendors or platforms that have these capabilities. It's more important to know that you will need all of these capabilities, right? So for the discover phase or the discover part of your products, you will need business intelligence capability. We have already talked about it, but you will also need big data capability, because this is where you will be generating a lot of social media content, feeds, etc., and you would need to process that, right? For your engage part, you obviously need a great content management system, right? Because all the content that you're generating from your engage and your discover phase needs to now play into this part, and you should be able to lead a customer through an experience, a virtual experience of a product, for example. Or they should be able to sort of browse through the different options available for products. They should be able to seamlessly pull up any kind of content, multimedia, etc., that you've put up on your website. Right? And again, you will need big data capability here, because across the different parts of your content, and when you integrate with your engage and discover phases, you will actually need to sort of crunch a lot of big data, and you'll have to be able to do that in a distributed real-time mode. For your, again, the buy phase or the actual transactional phase is simpler. You do need online transaction processing capabilities, and you need business reliability here. So this is where you need to build security, you need to build always on 24/7 availability, you need sort of redundant databases, all of that you need to make business reliable systems, right? And again, on the engage part, it's very similar to your discover part where social media and sort of data integration are high, and again you would need business intelligence capability and big data capability. So that's how the technology requirements kind of fall together. That brings me to the final comments that I wanted to make and kind of talk about some of my experiences in trying to do this. So I kind of have tried to put everything that I can think of in 3 key sort of directives or sort of major points that we need to keep in mind, right? So the first point is, do not try to get all of these aspects into one platform. So one of the common pitfalls that I've seen is people try to build one platform or one technology for all, right? So you try to say, I will have a single platform, and that will be both the best OLTP system and the best social media integrated site in the world, right? That's very difficult to do because each of these need different kind of technologies. They need different capabilities. And if you try to build everything into one platform or a single stack, for example, it becomes very challenging, and you have to then start sort of balancing between different capabilities, and you have to give up the best capabilities, or basically you would not be able to get the best of breed for each of those. So don't try to bring everything into one platform. That's not necessary. Let each of these areas be driven by their own platforms, which have strengths in the area that you need. Let the social media and the discover phases be on platforms that are good, right? You would need distributed big data systems built maybe on the cloud in Hadoop, or using NoSQL databases and all that in this kind of a situation, right? But it does not mean that you need that same platform for your OLTP system, right? So that's what I'm trying to say here. Your OLTP system, your buy system might be completely different set of technologies and platforms compared to your to your discover system, and that's okay. I mean, you don't need to have a single platform. The key here is you have to build a fabric model to integrate the data and the services across all these platforms, because like we saw before, the whole power of this thing comes when you integrate the data and the experiences and the sort of intelligence that you're building across these different areas of your customer lifecycle, right? So that is basically the key here. How do you integrate it into a fabric? And that's why I've used the term fabric here. And at PySys also, we kind of we call this the fusion fabric, because the banking platform is called the fusion, or the banking product line is called the fusion product line. So our fabric is called the fusion fabric. But the goal here is that it is not. Remember, I'm not calling it ESB, Enterprise Services Bus, or a messaging framework, because of a very specific reason, that it is not a close coupled, or it is not a synchronous integrated model. It is just a loose coupled fabric which doesn't really constrain the different parts of your engagement model, but it allows you to seamlessly exchange data and services across these different pieces. So you have to carefully design and develop a fabric across the different stacks that you're building for each of the areas of your product. If you can do that well, you will be able to harness the power across all of these different areas, or all of the different platforms that are serving the different parts of the customer engagement model, and use that data to drive discovery, to drive exploration, to drive engagement, to get more buy, right? So that's the whole goal, right? How do you get more people to buy your products? So that's, in a nutshell, the message I wanted to get across. And there are other experiences that I have gained in trying to do these kind of things, like it is difficult for different product teams to kind of buy into this kind of model, right? Because you're asking people to sort of come to a common goal across different, everybody thinks that their product or their product line is the best, right? People running the OLTP systems will say, oh, our product is doing great. If I kind of try to think about social media, or if I try to think about big data, I will get distracted. It's not the best thing to do for me. So I don't want to bother about the discover phase. Let me do what I want, you do whatever you want, right? So that kind of thing will happen. But that's where we need sort of big picture thinkers, leaders to come in and make sure everybody understands this and sort of builds towards a common goal and builds towards a common long-term product strategy roadmap, which sort of makes them future-proof. So that's all I had to say. That's the message I wanted to take across, and I think that's the end of my presentation.
Thanks for the insightful presentation, Sandeep. Let's